And I try to keep him in San Diego long enough every year to be here the last few weeks of our school session. I find that we don't honor our talented artists enough, especially in theater. And I always want you to do two things: to honor our writers and all those people who present our writers' work in such grand style. So I want you to welcome Brother Antonio T.J. Johnson here tonight.
Thank you very much. It's going to be a very exciting time for August Wilson pretty soon. A lot of great things are happening, and I met August Wilson in 1991. When I said I met him, I got a copy of Fences from Dr. Floyd Gaffney from UCSD. He was Professor Emeritus, but he also directed plays around town. And I was doing a play called Just a Few Hours in Hell. I played the devil in that play. It was a brand new play, and incidentally, ironically enough, that play is getting revisited on Broadway at the Eugene O'Neill Theater, and if they accept it, they're going to give the director a lot of money to redo that play. He hasn't said he was going to hire me to play the devil again, but I'm more of a devil now than I used to be. But I was playing the devil, and Dr. Gaffney came in and he said he needed me to leave this job to go and do a play called Fences. Now, I had been called to his office to read Fences, and I was just as intimidated as some of you people who didn't read it. I looked at this play, and it just seemed so hard. It was so many words, and the subject matter, and I tried to audition for him, but he said I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to play Troy Maxson, the lead in the play, because I was only about 40 years old at that time. So I went and did Just a Few Hours in Hell, and they tried 2 or 3 other people, and the people in the cast, especially Damon Bryan and Mlafi Thompson. Damon is dead now, but Mlafi is still alive and still one of the best actresses in this town, in the country. Excuse me, she would not like to hear that. So I only had about 2 weeks to get ready for the show, and it was a lot of words, and the only thing I did the lead in before that was Othello, and that was really hard. I did that out at Grossmont College with Martin Garish, and that was tough enough, and this really intimidated me. And one night, if you know the story of Fences, it's about a black family. And the black family has all sorts of dysfunctions because of the situation they're in 1952, 1953. The 50s were really tough on black families. And so the people who played the part, Dr. Gaffney told us that we needed a lot more work. We opened in a week. Something's not happening with this story. So one night after rehearsal, we went to UCSD. Shana Parker was playing Corey, and we went to his room. And it was a really messed up dorm room. But we went there and we had a couple of drinks and we sat around. And we didn't talk about the story per se. We talked about our family and how they connected to the story. There's a character in the story, Troy's brother Gabe, who was a Korean War veteran. And my uncle was a Korean War veteran. He lived in the basement. He used to yell all sorts of things up. And you're just like Gabe. He reminded me of Gabe. And my brother was a Vietnam veteran, and he died years later of infection from Agent Orange. And so our family was something, and as we talked about it, and as actors do, we really started to take the characters on personally, who they were. Troy Maxson was an angry black man. And when I was 40 years old, I was an angry black man. And I couldn't see my life for all the anger. He was angry because he didn't get his opportunities in sports. I was angry because I didn't get my opportunities in sports. I was angry because I wasn't getting my opportunities in theater. I was angry because as I looked around the world, nobody, no black people were getting the same opportunities as the other, white people were. And that's all I could see. Troy Maxson also was an alcoholic. They don't mention it, but he liked to drink on Friday nights. He liked to drink every night. He carried a bottle in his back pocket. I was an alcoholic. I didn't know it. But I connected so much with that character, his frustrations, his family, and that night we went and we cried a little bit, and then we thought, it was really intense that night. And we went back to rehearsal, and Dr. Gaffney was so proud of us. He didn't know. He said, I don't know what you did, but this is not the people that left here last night. But what happened is we connected to one of the greatest writers in the history of the world, August Wilson. We found out what he was talking about between the lines. And as I teach actors now, they asked me, a young actor asked me to come see his show Sunday, and I went to see his show, and he asked me, what did I think? I said, the things that you did on stage were on the script, but the things that you didn't do off the script matter more. The things between the lines, the internal things that happen that we don't talk about, that's really propelling us forward. And what happens with August Wilson, there's a lot of things between the lines that you have to read and you have to think about. And it connects universally. Not the color of your skin, it doesn't matter. It's about relationships. Relationships with a frustrated man, a relationship with a man trying to protect his son and not knowing how to protect his son. A relationship with a man who feels lost and trying to find something out there. And a man who's supposed to build a fence around the yard. Instead, he's building fences around his relationship with everybody in his life. And it's the deterioration of a great man. A man who could have been one of these great guys that you spend so much money to go to baseball games to see. So much money that you go to concerts to see. But the deterioration of him because of life circumstances is a wonderful story that we all need to see. So if you haven't read it, pick that story up. When I did Fences, I didn't know what was funny. I didn't know, I was just doing it. I was reading these lines and I didn't know what was going on in these lines. And years later, I didn't meet August Wilson. I was understudying a play at the Globe called Two Trains Running, and he was still writing it. It was one of the 10 plays that he wrote. And he was at the Globe and he was writing it, and he was sitting there with his head leaned back like this. And I just looked and I said, that man's asleep. He's not even watching his own show. And so I read later on that what he does is he listens to the words because he writes in music. If the actors don't understand the music of the piece, it doesn't go right. They're real long shows. They're over 2 hours all the time. And there's a lot of verbiage. There's a lot of talking. But it's music. He writes in rhythm and blues. He writes in jazz. He's actually a poet. And when he writes this musical stuff that he learned from reading Langston Hughes, it becomes real magical as an actor when you get it. Now I've done just about all of his plays, and in August I'm hoping to do Jitney right here in town, which was the first play that he wrote. But one show I did was the Gem of the Ocean, and it was about a conductor. I played a conductor of the Underground Railroad, and the director came up to me one day and said, "You are a Wilsonian." And that is a great, it's like being a Shakespearean. Or if you know Sam Shepard, or Shepardian as they call him. Or Neil Simon, you know how to read Simon stuff. But to be called a Wilsonian is very special. The special thing that's happening is that Denzel Washington has taken control of the 10-cycle play. He's going to do it with HBO. This is big. This is big because of what? Star Wars. You people love to sit and watch things. You like to see things in the big screen, and you like to see things going all crazy and stuff. You like that stuff. So what he's going to do is take these wonderful plays and he's going to put them so that you're comfortable with seeing them up on the screen. All 10 of them. Then people will start going to see the plays live because they will actually see how great they are. So I'm real glad that he's doing this. Also, there'll be a lot of work for a lot of actors who really don't get much work. The one thing Troy Maxson was connected to was above everything else. He had to connect to things higher. He was a great baseball player. It was fashioned after Josh Gibson, who was a real person. Josh Gibson was the greatest home run hitter in the history of baseball. How many people have heard of him? One person. How many people heard of Babe Ruth? That's the problem with this country. Okay. Josh Gibson, Babe Ruth would tell you that Josh Gibson is the greatest baseball player. In Yankee Stadium, he used to knock balls out of there regularly. But he couldn't play there because of the color of his skin. Does that make any sense to you? No, it doesn't make any sense to you. It didn't make any sense to Troy either. Troy wound up in jail because he had to take care of his family. And a lot of people say, well, you don't have to go to jail to do that. But still, to this day, you still have to take care of your family. I just got off a telephone call with my family. I go back and forth to Chicago. My mother's 94, my brothers have cancer, my sister is Parkinson's, my other sister is bedridden. I go back and forth with my dog, who is sick tonight, otherwise you'd see him with me all the time. So you have to take care of your family no matter what. And Troy was taking care of his family. But he also had this anger that never leaves because he spent most of his young years in jail and he never got a chance to show people how good he was. Never got a chance to show people what his passion was. If somebody took away your passion, you'd feel the same way. So he had this relationship with death. He challenged death to come get him. Early in the show, he does a monologue. He's sitting in the backyard like we used to always do in Chicago, sit in the backyard on Friday nights. That was our party nights. We'd sit back there. When I was very little, I used to sit there and, we'd hide in the corners because they would be acting a fool out there. The adults would be going crazy. They'd be drinking and talking and telling really bad jokes. So we'd be over in the corner listening and, trying to. And I can just see myself sitting there and listening to Troy come home from work one day and have that liquor bottle in the back of his pocket. His wife said, "You're going to drink yourself to death." He said, "I ain't afraid of death. Death don't mean nothing to me. I done seen him. Wrestled with him. Look here, Bono, I looked up one day and I saw death marching straight at me. Like soldiers on parade, the army of death was marching straight at me. It was the middle of July 1941. And it seemed like death just reached out, touched me on the shoulder. Touched me just like I touch you. I got cold as ice and death just standing there grinning at me. Got that sickle in his hand. I said, "What you want, Mr. Death? You be wanting me? You done bought your whole army to be getting me?" I looked him dead in his eye. I wasn't fearing nothing. The Bible says you got to be ever vigilant. That's why I don't drink so much. Got to keep watch. Death just standing there staring at me. Got that sickle in his hand. Finally he said, "You won't bound over another year," just like that. "You won't bound over another year." I say, "Bound over hell? Let's settle it now." When I said that, death like to fell back and all the cold went out of me. I picked up that sickle and I threw it just as far as I could, and me and death commenced to wrestling. We wrestled for 3 days and 3 nights. Now I don't know where I got the strength from. But ever so often, death would reach down deep inside me and give me the strength to do him one better. Now, after 3 days, me and Death, we both tired. Death got up, put on his hood, had him a white hood, put on his hood and went off to look for a sickle. He said, "I'll be back." Just like that. "I'll be back." I said, "Yeah? But you're going to have to find me." I wasn't waiting for death. I wasn't going out there looking for him. Now, I know he's going to find me. I know he's going to try to make me part of his army. But he's going to have to fight to get me. I ain't going easy. When I read that every night, I understood. Because I was out there fighting. I was out there living in the back of my van. I was going to make something of myself on the stages of San Diego, and I wasn't going to let nobody keep me off. They wasn't giving me no parts. I had to fight for everything. They were paying me no money. I had to fight for everything. I was homeless. But I ain't going easy. They're going to have to fight to kill me. And I connected with August. And I said, finally, somebody is giving me something to say on the stage that means something. I'm not playing the devil in a musical and doing this every day. Just a few hours, that's what I was doing. The Fantastics, kicking up my feet. I was doing a South Pacific. That wasn't my story. I could do it. I was hired and I did the job. But that wasn't my story. Shakespeare was not my Shakespeare. August Wilson is my Shakespeare. One of the great things about Shakespeare that you have to understand is that when Shakespeare tells a story, it's hard to understand. So that means you have to work as a listener. That means you have to get involved as an audience. It just doesn't wash over you like 2.5 Men or anything else you see on TV nowadays. You have to work at Shakespeare. When in disgrace with fortune in men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble death heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself, and curse my fate. Thinking me not one rich in hope, desired like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, and what I most enjoy, contented lest yet in these thoughts myself almost despising, haply I think on thee. And then my thoughts like that to a lark at break of day, arising from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gates, for thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. You have to work to understand that beauty, that poetry, those sonnets, the love sonnets. Romeo and Juliet's love affair is magnificent, wonderful. Much Ado About Nothing, Benedict and Beatrice, Othello, The Tempest, Prospero. But that wasn't my story, so I couldn't understand it until I understood August Wilson. They say Shakespeare is written in iambic pentameter. Beautiful, you know what that is, right? Da-da, 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 da-da. You have to say it right before it comes out. You don't stop where everybody else stops. You have to take a deep breath and talk a little faster. And take your pauses when your pauses are due. Well, I say August Wilson is written in I am black man pentameter. And you have to do the same thing. You don't understand it. You may not even understand the words, but if the actor gets it right, you know,
You ever heard of stacking niggas? You know how to stack a nigga? You don't know how to stack a nigga. Well, I'm gonna tell you how to stack a nigga. First, you gotta go get a nigga. You get yourself a nigga, then you take him out and you get something out the earth. Say you get a pile of potatoes. Now you got a sack of potatoes and a nigga. Now you take those potatoes and get you another nigga. Now you got two niggas. You got two stacks. That's how you stack a nigga on top of a nigga. White man been stacking up niggas for a long time. They stack niggas up on the top of each other. You can make 6 or 7 circles around the moon. You got so many niggas stacked up together. They couldn't get around across the world in the boat because the boat was riding so low on the water. Now that's how you stack a nigga. They ain't stacking no more niggas. When they didn't have to pay niggas, they stacked them up sky high. Now that they got to pay them, you can't find a job for them. Now that's a character talking. There's a character in 2 Trains Running that says, I want my ham. You want to give me my ham? That's his only lines. That actor has to say, I want my ham. Why does he say that? That's what everybody wants to know. Then finally somebody says, why is he coming here every day saying he wants his ham? Well, Mr. Lutz told him that if he painted his fence, that he was going to give him a ham. Hambone painted the fence. Mr. Lutz said, I'll give you a chicken. Hambone said, I want my ham. Mr. Lutz said, I'll give you a chicken. So every day Hambone stand outside his stove and say, I want my ham. He ain't going to take a chicken. Everybody in here will take a chicken. You ain't gonna stand up for yourself like that. Hambone died, never did get his ham. But the end of the story, something magnificent happens. The next generation gets that ham. So Hambone stood up long enough for it to mean something. Now those little things in August Wilson are things that I found, and over the years I've found it. When August Wilson died in 2005, I did readings of all the stories here. And I found all these little things. Then in 2008, we did fences again, 18 years after we did it the first time. We won 5 awards from the Critic Circle Awards. Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Ensemble, Best Producer. They didn't have any more awards, otherwise we would have won them. I went to New York to watch Denzel Washington do it. He played the part that I played. And to this day, I swear I'm better than he is. And Troy Maxson. I don't think Denzel Washington went through the neighborhood I went to. I'd love to sit down and talk to him about it. There's so much to talk about. But the relationships in here, father and son relationships, it's very important to everybody in this room to look at those relationships. Husband and wife relationships. If you say the things that Rose said to Troy, your husband will stay in line. I don't want to give you all the things in the story because they're the plot points if you haven't read it. But there's, right, Troy cheats on Rose. He's been married 18 years. She said, I've been married 18 years to you and you come in here with me and tell me that? 18 years. He said, Rose, I just had to find something else. You know how men do. Men start to squirming, boy. But Rose reminds me of my 94-year-old mother standing right there in the middle of the storm. She reminded me of something the other day. We used to get arrested. We were talking about the young black men getting shot. In Chicago, we used to get arrested all the time for nothing. We used to get shot at. When we had riots in school, they would take all the black people, put them on buses, and take them to the 35th Street police station, and the parents had to come and pick them up. And my mother said, we had to come up with $15 every time they arrested you. That was bail. And we didn't have it. So until the police would keep us, we would always be the last ones, me and my brothers, until they just got tired of it. Or one of the other parents would pick us up, say, oh, I get it from Tyree, that's all right. But if they didn't pick us up, they would leave us there, and then they just put us out on the street, and we'd walk through the white neighborhoods, the Italian, the Polish neighborhoods, until we got home. I was very lucky. My brothers were crazy. They could protect us. They taught me a little bit. I was a little guy, and I didn't have it, you know, that project heart that they had, but they, you know, they were very crazy. And my mother reminded me of that. They used to arrest y'all all the time. You know, she thought that was better than the kids were getting shot. You know, 'cause we had gangs and stuff. But my mother was Rose. She stood there amongst all of that stuff. And she stayed there. She still stands there and she tries to take care of everything. At her age, she knows nothing but survival in this country. That's what she does. She takes care of her family and she survives. She has never in her life called a policeman. Even when she got robbed, she told my brother he took care of it. So, what the significance is to me of August Wilson, to a lot of you, all of you as a matter of fact, because even if you are of black skin, your relationship with the United States is different than ours was back then. And August Wilson, what he was writing about, it's really different. What the significance of the story is, and he said, you need to know about your neighbors. You need to know about the people you live with. You need to know what's going on in the backyard. And I want to tell you a couple of things. Tell you a story about this. There's a lot of, in all the stories, there's a Hambone, there's a Headley, there's a Gabe. These people, we didn't send our mentally ill people to doctors. We took care of them. There's a murder in one story. There's a murder in a lot of the stories. There's a murder in one story where we didn't tell the policeman. We know who did it, but we didn't trust the policeman enough to put him in his hands because he was sort of mentally ill and they would hurt him. So nobody told. The money was buried. There was one of the stories where the mother winds up killing the son. I'll put you here, I'll take you out. But Fences is one of his Pulitzer Prize winners, the other was Piano Lesson. And the reason he wrote that is because they challenged him early in his writing career. After he wrote Ma Rainey and Jitney, they challenged August Wilson and told him, he writes a lot of stories with a lot of characters. And they're all rich characters, wonderful characters, but he couldn't write a story that was the traditional American story about the hero, the John Wayne, the big guy, King Lear. If he's really a Shakespearean writer, he's got to write a story about a big character. So he took him and he wrote Fences, and he won the Pulitzer Prize for it. Big character. You know who played Fences? Troy Maxon on Broadway. Before Denzel Washington, the person who made it famous. Darth Vader. The first Darth Vader. James Earl Jones. One of the greatest actors of our time. And you don't know that. I think he did 565 shows. Now, I just got through doing, and good Lord, bless me, help me, 8 shows for 8 weeks. 8 shows a week for 8 weeks. What is that? 8 times 8 is, and I'm exhausted. 8 shows a week, man. It just wore me out. He did 565 shows of Fences. I think I could do that because the show is so alive. But, so to get back to the story, And eventually, what happens is that we see what happens as this inherited anger is passed on down to the next generations. And how we are taught. And if someone is not there to interpret the necessity to change your way of thinking, not that the anger is wrong, but it needs to be put into effect a different way. It didn't work for Troy. He destroyed himself battling that anger. So Rose took it upon herself to tell Corey, his son, there's got to be a different way. We got to go at it a different way. The show I just finished, the line was, we've got to move from protest to politics. It's a great line. The protest was wonderful. It was great to have people out in the street, but now we got to move to politics. And I think now we have to move to economics, because this is a capitalistic society. But I won't get into my political rhetoric. Okay. So that's I wanted to give you a little overview about fences, and a little bit where August Wilson got his thing. He got a lot of his influences from Amiri Baraka. I did a show with him a long time ago. Baraka, Langston Hughes, and who else? James Baldwin. And there's a lot of influences, young people who are writing now. Nambi F. Kelly, the guy I just got through working with, Michael Benjamin Washington. These young people are influenced. They're writing about Lorraine Hansberry. They're writing about James Baldwin. They're writing about people, young men being shot in the streets. These stories are coming out on stage as we sit here. I've seen a lot of them. I'm hearing about them as they're writing them. I just did a show about Bayard Rustin. I played A. Philip Randolph. If you don't know who they are, then I don't know. It's all about the 1963 March on Washington. These are the people who put that together and ran that march. They are the great people who put together what is called America's Finest Day. And you should know about these people. But they're African American. So you have to go research. You have to find out who they are. And all of this stage stuff right now is connected to what scholars call the American Shakespeare, August Wilson. It's all connected. We didn't have this beforehand. I was doing all sorts of garbage. I think Lorraine Hansberry had something going. Maybe James Baldwin and Amiri Baraka had some stuff over here. But August Wilson, the thing that he does that Americans like, he makes money. His stories make money. And now they're going to be on HBO. That's your territory. You could watch it on TV. You don't have to go out, but it's not going to be the same as you get it up on stage. It won't be the same as you get it from me. Now I'm getting the opportunity to do a two-week workshop at a college back in the Midwest, because they're doing August Wilson, and they don't know nothing about August Wilson. The teacher doesn't know anything, so he's asking me to come in and do a 2-week workshop. They won't pay me what I'm worth, but I think it'll be worth this to do it. So, is there anything else you want to do with this?
That dialogue between Troy and the son.
Oh, okay. There's a scene between Troy and his son that really is very, very, it's really important about relationships. Theater is important about relationships. Life is important about relationships. This relationship is so important because it tells you how the son gets the anger and the energy from, and the strength from his father. But I'm going to need a volunteer. Anybody want to be an actor? Anybody? Anybody? Who read the story? Anybody? Did anybody read it?
Yeah, they're
Not
afraid
under
to
those
get out of the
circumstances.
Huh?
I said, not under these circumstances.
You didn't?
No, I didn't.
You didn't read it?
I did not.
Good, come on, you help. So it'll be something new for you.
All right, cool.
You'll be my son. My little white son. Get your book. Yeah, see, you're a big guy too, so. All right, so why don't you turn to page 37. Let's start on page 36. Wait a minute. Yeah. It's a long, okay. So they've been working together in the yard, and the son wants to play football, and his father wants him to go and get a job down at the A&P. So he thinks he's been working down at the A&P. The kid has quit the A&P so he can play football. And the father says to him, you go on and learn how to put your hands to some good use besides hauling people's garbage. On 36, Corey says,
I get good grades, Pop. That's why the recruiter wants to talk with you. You got to keep up your grades to get recruited. This way I'll be going to college. I'll get a chance.
first you're going to get your butt down there to the A&P and get your job back.
Mr. Stawicki done already hired somebody else because I told him I was playing football.
You a bigger fool than I thought. To let somebody take away your job so you can play some football. Where you gonna get your money to take out your girlfriend and whatnot? What kind of foolishness is that to let somebody take away your job?
I'm still going to be working weekends.
No, you gonna get your butt out of here and find you another job.
Come on, Pop. I got to practice. I can't work after school and play football, too. The team needs me. That's what Coach Zellman say.
I don't care what nobody else says. I'm the boss, you understand? I'm the boss around here. I do the only saying what counts.
Come on, Pop.
I asked you, did you understand?
Yeah.
What?
Yes, sir.
Go on down there and to that A&P and see if you can get your job back. If you can't do both, you quit the football team. You gotta take the crookeds with the straights.
Yes, sir. Can I ask you a question?
The hell you wanna ask me? Mr. Stawicki, the one you got questions for?
How come you ain't never liked me?
Liked you? Well, who the hell say I got to like you? What law does say I got to like you want to stand up in my face and ask a damn fool-ass question like that, talking about somebody like you? Come here, boy, when I talk to you. Straighten up, goddammit! I asked you a question. What law does say I got to like you?
None.
Well, all right then. Don't you eat every day? Answer me when I talk to you. Don't you eat every day?
Yeah.
Nigga, as long as you in my house, you put a sir on the end of that when you talk to me.
Yes, sir.
You eat every day?
Yes, sir.
Got a roof over your head?
Yes, sir.
Got clothes on your back?
Yes, sir.
Why do you think that is?
Because of you.
Oh, hell, I know it's because of me. Why do you think it is?
Because you like me.
Like, I go out here every morning, bust my butt, putting my up with them crackers every day because I like you. You about the biggest fool I ever saw. It's my job. It's my responsibility. Man got to take care of his family. You live in my house, sleep your behind in my bedclothes, fill your belly up with my food because you're my son. You're my flesh and blood, not because I like you. Because it's my duty to take care of you. I owe a responsibility to you. Let's get this straight before we go any further. I ain't got to like you. Mr. Rand don't give me my money every payday because he likes me. He give me because he owed me. I didn't give you everything I had to give you. I gave you your life. Me and your mama worked it out between us. And liking your black ass wasn't part of the bargain. Don't you try to go through life worrying about if somebody like you or not. You best be making sure they doing right by you. You understand what I'm saying, boy?
Yes, sir.
Then get the hell out of my face and get on down to that A&P. Give him a great big round of applause. Was that uncomfortable?
No, I don't get uncomfortable about either. Name calling isn't calling to get me uncomfortable.
How many people got a relationship like that with their dad? Was that love? You got that kind of relationship? You say that's not love?
That's the responsibility.
Is that love? That's love. He knows what the white man is doing. He knows what that football ain't gonna get you nowhere. You gotta get a job in this world. You could say that right now. You know what they're coming up with? That football is harmful. Cause concussions. There's a movie about it with the great Will Smith in it. Maybe Troy was smarter than everybody. He wanted his son to live a life, get a job. Now that you've heard that, can you put those voices in your head when you read it, when you take it out to the beach and read it? Lay out on the beach? Because that's who Troy is. Troy's that man who loved his kids, loved his wife, he just didn't know how to do it. There was too many distractions. Life was a distraction. Anybody? Got any questions?
Didn't Troy, Troy didn't understand that his son Corey was getting the football scholarship because of his grades. And Troy is literate. Did that have anything to do with his decision against football? I mean, it wasn't just football. His son had to have his grades up.
Yeah, he wanted his son to be a better person than he was. There are more stories in there that tells about his relationship with his father and how it's passed down. And he knew that in this world, there was no wiggle room for black young men. As we see now, the wiggle room is very small. You know, we got people making millions of dollars playing sports or everything. I say that's a big distraction. That's a big distraction. If I had kids nowadays, I would not let them play sports. Not unless their grades were perfect. It's an extracurricular activity. There's only one Michael Jordan. He's the only billionaire that's come out, black billionaire that's come out of all of this. So what's the odds? You know, I wouldn't let them do it. They're just being used. And if they get hurt, they throw them away. Right now, they're talking about throwing away Derrick Rose. You know, just throw them away. Oh, we're tired. Let's trade them. Let's do it. Like, you know, that's it. Just throw them away. So there's something to this way of bringing people up that's very, very. On stage, you can't just be a good guy. You got to be a well-rounded person. So you have to make choices about what he did. There's some things in it that makes men uncomfortable and make women very angry and vocal during the show. They will say what they feel right during the show. You gonna do what? You know, you hear it all out there. It's very emotional. So I'm glad that this is your introduction to August Wilson. I hope that I can do this all over the world. Introduce this in Paris and London, and these things are so important to me. Just because it's about where our country is going, it's about the people that you live with. So give yourself a chance. Take this thing out to it. It's a 2-hour show, it's a 2-hour read. When you're on the beach, just read it. I guarantee you once you get into it, you ain't gonna want to put it down. You know. It's got plots, there's things going on. You know, there's all sorts of things going on. And then when you find out what's really going on, boy, you go, oh my Lord, look at here. Okay? All right. Thank you very much. And the other thing is that if you could read something about August Wilson, you'll see that his influences are people that you know, Langston Hughes and all these people. And the poetry that's involved is very important. The poetic license, the I am black pentameter is very important when you start hearing this on stage. And when we do Jitney, you'll see it. It's about another father and son relationship. And it's very, very heavy. So look out for it. Okay? All right.